In the far-off, mystical lands of the Golden Saucer, there exists a game of myth, enigmatic and mysterious, hidden from naught but the most prying eyes. And you might have heard of it. That's right, today we're covering Mahjong. Wait, oh right, sorry, today we're covering Triple Triad. For all intents and purposes, Triple Triad is a collective card game featured in several Final Fantasy titles that has also made its way into Final Fantasy XIV. Whether you're a long-time veteran or new player, you've likely seen traces of the game pop up in the form of cards dropping from various activities like dungeons, trials, fates and the like. Perhaps you even picked up the quest to unlock your first deck, or played an NPC or two. However, if you're here, one could assume you found yourself identifying more closely with this man, rather than this champion of a lady right here. Today, I aim to help change that. In this video, I'll cover some Triple Triad fundamentals, like the basic and advanced rule sets, your first decks, important cards to get, and some good ways to get new cards. For the sake of availability and ease of acquisition, I will limit the guide most of the cards and options that can be obtained during or as part of the A Realm Reborn and Heavenward expansions, both of which are part of the Final Fantasy XIV free trial. So whether you want to learn or just pick up on new tricks, I hope you enjoy as we go through these steps. At its core, Triple Triad is a game played between two players that unfold over the course of 9 turns, in which the turn order is decided at random at the beginning of the game. The objective of the game is to turn and keep as many of the opponent's cards to your color as possible. Whichever player has the most cards at the end of the 9 turns win. To capture cards, you put down a card whose facing value is higher than the one of the defending card. Each card has 4 faces: left, right, up, and down. In this example, the card I'm placing down is attacking the one above it, meaning that my card attacks with its up facing value, whereas the defending card defends with its down facing value. The key to winning is to capture enough of your opponent's cards to tip the scale in your favor, while also locking and defending your own cards. In addition to the basic rule set, there are 14 advanced rule sets that might surface over the course of your card gaming adventures, in addition to a 15th that chooses randomly from the previous 14. These rules can be set in the initiation menu while challenging other players, as part of a tournament, a part of an NPC's rule set, or as part of a modifying regional rule set. Rather than listing them alphabetically, I will order them in pairs decided by effect and conditions. All open and 3 open. The simplest of the rule sets. When these rules are in place, your opponent will be able to see either 3 in the case of 3 open, or 5 in the case of all open of the cards in your hand. While this rule set offers you an extended overview of the match condition, it does the same for your opponent, who in turn can act on their information, something that NPCs will also do. Order and Chaos. These rule sets affect the order in which you can put down your cards. Normally, there are no restrictions on which cards you can put down, but Order and Chaos changes that. In the case of Order, you will have to put down your cards from left to right, first row first, before moving on to the second row in the same manner. Because of this, if you aim to run a one-size-fits-all kind of deck, it's a good idea to put your most valuable card in the 4th slot, so that you get to play it regardless of whether you go first or second. In the case of a Chaos rule set, the cards follow no specific order, but the cards you're allowed to put down are decided at random. Swap, Random, and Draft. These 3 rule sets affect your card selection. Swap is the least offensive of the 3, and makes it so that you swap the card with your opponent at random at the beginning of the match. There is no restrictions as to which cards can be swapped, and you might find yourself swapping your worst card for your opponent's best, vice versa, or anything in between. Random, while no longer eligible for most NPC matches, randomly picks 5 cards from your total pool of unlocked cards, leaving you with an entirely random hand. Draft also affects your card selection, but works on a different pool than the previous 2. When you're playing a draft game, the game has a constructed deck picking cards from 3 randomly picked sets, giving 3 alternatives per set. The end result will always be a deck comprised of a 1-star, a 2-star, a 3-star, a 4-star and a 5-star card. These sets are not picked from your personal pool of available cards, but rather the total card pool featured in the game. Ascension and Descension. Ascension and Descension are rule sets playing on specific types of cards. Among the more than 300 different Triple Triad cards are typed cards, namely Primal, Beastman, Scion, or Imperial. When these rule sets are in effect, a typed card will get a +1 bonus or a -1 penalty to all their faces for each card of its type currently on the board, with Ascension giving bonuses and Descension giving penalties. Any face increased to 11 or above is considered to be an A rank, otherwise known as a 10, while any face lower to 0 or below is considered a 1. Fallen Ace and Reverse. These rule sets change how the value of card faces are considered. The Fallen Ace rule allows a card with a facing value of 1 to overtake a card whose defending value is an A rank. Meanwhile, Reverse is a more total conversion of values in which a lower value will beat a higher value. For example, an attacking value of 3 will defeat a defending value of 6, and so on. It is worth noting that in the case that both Fallen Ace and Reverse is in play, an A rank card will be capable of overtaking a 1-face card. Furthermore, card value modifications stemming from Ascension and Descension will also count into these calculations. Plus and Same. Plus and Same are considered two of the trickier and most volatile rule sets in Triple Triad, in part because of how they interact with the cards on the board, but also because of their ability to start a combo, which we will cover in just a bit. Plus is a rule that kicks into effect when a card is placed adjacent to 2 or more cards where at least one has to belong to the opponent. When a total value of 2 or more of the active card faces, both its own and its facing card, makes out the same total value, the defending card is captured regardless of whether or not its facing value is higher or lower than the attacking card. Same is a similar rule in its effect. However, under the same pre-existing conditions as Plus, Same will activate not when the facing sides share a total value, but rather when its own facing values are the same as the ones of the cards it's facing. So, if a 7-2 left top card faces a 7 card on the left and a 2 on the top, the same rule takes effect. As I mentioned previously, when you win a card because of either the Plus or the Same rule, it can start a combo. The combo occurs when a captured card is facing an opposing card whose facing value is lower than its own. At this point, the captured card will be treated as if it was just put down, and while it cannot further Plus or Same, it will reactivate any card it captures normally in a similar fashion. Sudden Death. Sudden Death is the last of the advanced rule sets. Rather than affecting the game before or during its course, it takes effect at the end of the game. In the event that the game ends in a draw, instead of ending, the game starts over. However, instead of playing with the deck you initially brought, you are now playing with a hand comprised of the cards that you captured during the draw game. This cycle keeps going until a winner is chosen. The 15th and last rule set is Roulette. Rather than being a unique rule set, it will pick randomly from any of the previous 14 rule sets, save for Random, which is no longer available in most NPC battles. Your first decks. Since this is a card game, it goes without saying that you want a couple of different decks to play around with. You will have enough slots for 5 different decks that you can customize as you wish, now with unlimited 3-star cards plus a 4 or 5-star ace right off the bat, which is a recent change. You no longer need 60 cards in order to unlock that option. While it is difficult to make a one-size-fits-all deck with all the various rule sets you can encounter, you can achieve fairly good coverage with 3 or 4 different decks. Normally, I keep an Ascension deck for the Ascension rules, a Reverse deck for the Reverse rules, and a regular 3-star deck for almost everything else. If your regular deck has typed cards, it might do you some good to have a specific Ascension deck that is free of those as well. If it is your very first time playing, your first deck is likely going to be the initial Dodo, Cactuar, Bomb, Mandragora, Curl set. While it is only capable of beating a few easy-rated NPCs reliably, it works perfectly well for stronger NPCs to use in the Reverse rule set, and for that reason alone, it's worth keeping on your list. With a Reverse deck now in place, we can have a look at Ascension decks. Here you have 4 types to choose between: Beastmen, Imperial, Primals, and Scions. Typically, Beastmen have the weakest sets, while Scions have the best sets. Imperial and Primal tend to be more or less even. Personally, if you have a few thousand MGP you're willing to spend, I would recommend buying the Silver Triple Triad card packs for 1150 MGP each until you get Ifrit, Titan, Garuda, and Good King Mughal, as they're all 3-star primal cards. If you also manage to win an open tournament, you can claim Phoenix from the Achievement Keeper in Old Gridania, which is a 5-star primal card. That alone will give you a leg up on almost all Ascension NPCs in the game. If spending MGP is not an option, I'd recommend a deck consisting of Amalja and Mimaroon, which can be won from Mimaroon in Upper Lanosha, Scarface Begal Ya, which can be won from Guthwin and Orifort in the Golden Saucer, Mutamix Bubbly Pots, which can be won from Phobos in Central Thanalan, and Frixio, which can be won from Piralna in the East Shroud. Seeing as most of these cards have 3/6 sides, they will do fairly well because of how the Ascension rule set works, easily boosting them to triple A's. Now, with both an Ascension and a reverse deck in place, getting a deck in place for regular play is the final thing on our list. Choosing cards based on a mix of ease of acquisition and quality, I would recommend Isail, which can be won from Marsachon in the Dravanian Forelands, Behemoth, which can be won from Orderlick in the Coertus Central Highlands, though you might want to prepare a special deck for his Order rule set. Alternatively, during the 5.4 Mughal Treasure Trove event, you can buy the Griffin from the Itinerant Mughal for 7 irregular tomestones of Esoterics. The Griffin, which has a decent chance of dropping from the level 51 dungeon Dusk Vigil. There are other options, but it is a decently common and decently strong neutral card. And Urian J, which can be won from Ritrida in the Golden Saucer, or as a drop from the Silver Triad card pack. While it is typed, I believe it to be one of the stronger ones of its slot, and might just be worth a risk during Ascension until it can get the more rare left top 8/8 cards. This deck provides a decent mix of offense and defense that can go well with almost any ace card available. That said, these are not the definitive answers, but just my preferences and recommendations. There are several quick ways to accumulate a decent collection of cards. Depending on whether or not you want to spend your MGP on card packs, your path might differ a little bit. In the case that you do not mind spending some MGP, you can buy bronze, silver and gold packs until you have 4 to 5 cards from each pool. After this point, it becomes more of an MGP sink for the sake of completionism, rather than quick expansions. Another good way is open tournaments. After completing the quests It Could Happen to You and Triple Triad Trial, which are required in order to play Triple Triad, a new event quest will show up in the card corner of the Golden Saucer, in which you talk to the Open Tournament official and sign up for an Open Tournament. The Open Tournament has a 30-minute window every 2 hours during which you will have time to participate in 2 to 3 tournaments. Regardless of your placement, you will get an assortment of MGP and card packs as a reward for competing. The Open Tournament will always use the draft rule set, giving you access to the same kind of cards as everyone else, so your chances are good. Furthermore, the Open Tournament will alternate between basic rules and advanced rule sets every 4 hours. Typically, you will match with 1 to 2 player opponents, with the rest of the slots filling up with NPCs. This is probably the best way to start off if you do not want to spend MGP, and it's a good option regardless. When you win your first tournament, you will earn an achievement that lets you claim a 9956 card, named Phoenix, from Jonathas in Old Gridania, which might just be your first 5-star ace. Other than these methods, a fair few cards drop from dungeons and trials, and specific cards also drop from Triple Triad NPCs and achievements. As of patch 5.4, your card collection tab in your Golden Saucer menu should feature a compendium that expands as you go. I would like to end off this guide, saying while these decks and strategies aren't necessarily the altogether most optimal, they are designed to get you off the ground as fast as possible while facing as few challenging NPCs as possible, so that you can come back to the difficult ones with more competitive decks. Furthermore, it goes without saying that if you already have some of these cards in your collection, you do not need to go hunting for them. Thank you for sitting along with me as we went through the basics of Triple Triad. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to stay up to date on what I do. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a nice one!